سلام 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 Peaceful, 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 peace.
Bismillah, alhamdulillah, assalamu alaikum, which means peace be unto you. Welcome to another episode of The Deen Show. You want to know about Islam? You've come to the right place. You want to know about Muslims? You've come to the source. Our next guest is the author of some very unique books. We're going to be talking to him. We're going to be talking about how he came to Islam. Sit tight, you don't want to go nowhere with our next guest coming up, Dr. Brown. We'll be right back on The Deen Show.
Salam, 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 salam. Peaceful, 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 peace. Peaceful, 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 peace.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Dr. Brown, thank you for being with us on The Deen Show. It's a treat.
My pleasure.
Dr. Brown or Officer Brown?
No, Dr. Brown.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the people, our audience, just got to read a little bit about you. Why don't you just briefly tell us, they got to see that you had graduated, you're a doctor, you were an officer, a retired major in the Air Force, is this correct? Tell us a little bit about this.
Well, I don't know if you really can say retired, because that, in most people's minds, means that they spent 20 years in the military.
Yeah.
I was 16 years, 8 years in active reserves and 8 years active duty. But the bottom line is that I'm an ophthalmologist. I'm a specialist in cataract and refractive surgery. I'm the medical director of a major eye center. During the last 10 years, I've authored a number of books about Islam. I first became Muslim about 14 years ago, and in the first few years, it was just accelerated learning. I got to a point where I realized that there was basically an absence of literature with regard to certain subjects, and I felt that void needed to be filled, and that's what started me on writing. So over the last 10 years, I wrote a series of 5 books. Many readers might know the first one. It's called The First and Final Commandment. However, I have now rewritten that into 2 books. One is called Misguided, and the other is called Guided. Those are basically volumes 1 and volumes 2 of The First and Final Commandment. The latest book, the one I'm most excited about, is The Eighth Scroll. And the reason that I'm excited, and I feel others should be as well, is that that's actually an action-adventure. It's a novel. And it's a very exciting, very fast-paced book. And it's a book that people will read because they enjoy it. But at the same time, they'll take home a deeper message. So that's about it.
Let's talk about, people are excited, because you mentioned the word excited. I'm sure they're excited to hear how you came to Islam. Talk about this. Talk about your past religious experiences and what led you to Islam.
Sure. Actually, you know, it's kind of a fun topic for me because most people assume that I was Christian before I became Muslim. Mm-hmm. And I have to correct them. I have to tell them no. I was trying very hard to be a Christian. I had tried for many years to be a Christian in many different ways, and it just never worked out for me. And I get a lot of funny looks when I say that. But the bottom line is that what happened was that I started on a spiritual search about 19 years ago. I had a daughter who was born with what's called a coarctation of the aorta. It's a lethal problem, meaning that a child born with this condition most often dies, and they usually die in a particularly bad way, meaning that they have open heart surgery, and then a few years later they repeat the open heart surgery, and then a few years later they repeat it. As the child is growing, they have to increase the size of the graft, and in the end these children die. So this was the first time when I got the news of her condition. This is the first time in my life I felt I had no control. I couldn't do anything about this situation. Every time before in my life when there was a problem, I dealt with it on my own. If I needed more money, I worked harder. If this needed fixing, I found somebody or I fixed it myself, etc., etc. And everybody knows what I'm talking about. When this baby was born, her name was Hannah, she went straight to the intensive care unit. Her body from here down was almost the color of my suit, closer to the color of your suit, just kind of a dusky gunmetal blue, because her body was not getting oxygen. Her body was literally starving in front of her eyes.